Hey guys, my name's Echo Kellum. I play Curtis Hull, aka Mr. Terrific, on CW Arrow, and you're listening to Kneel Before Pod.
Kneel Before Blog presents Kneel Before Pod.
My name is Craig Mackenzie. After a lifetime of being a nerd, I have come to you with only one goal: to talk utter nonsense. But to do that, I can't sit and talk to myself. I must enlist someone else and do something else. So I have it on good authority that my guest for this further development into the DC TV universe was without internet for 5 minutes, and now he just kills people with, I think it's an iron. Is that your gimmick, Chris?
That is my gimmick. You're spot on. I kill people with an iron because of my lack of internet. I seek revenge upon them.
Because it was 5 minutes without internet. And
whole 5 minutes.
Yeah, it was brutal. We're all we all go through our own personal islands as as Oliver Queen does, and you've had yours. I've yet to have mine. I'm okay. I'm still in season 1 Flash mode where I'm just running around naive. Nah, I don't know. So successful intro from me. Yeah. Hello, Chris. Welcome to Arrow season 5, the good one.
Hello.
We have been through the Flash season 3, and we're in desperate need of a pick-me-up. So now we have Arrow season 5, which is, historically the more morbid of the two. Historically,
it's still morbid. However,
yeah.
However, had quite a good season, I thought.
Yeah, me too. I really enjoyed it. Good characterization, good villain, good plot developments. It was just good, throughout, just routinely good. That's all I have to say without launching into spoilers.
Same as me, pretty much. I enjoyed the developments that happened this season. I kind of like the way they've left it, potentially helping the next season, so yeah. Yeah, it's all good. Are you ready to go into spoilers then? That was quick. Yeah. Fire the spoiler klaxon, or the arrow sound effect.
The
thing.
Spoiler arrow, yes. The
spoiler arrow, yeah. You've got a utility arrow in the back there that you can fire. Yeah. Go for it.
I'll just reach around into my quiver here. It's like, no, that's the...
That's not your quiver.
Yeah.
That's not where you keep a quiver.
It's where I keep a quiver. Sorry, listeners, this is... Yeah, so...
reach into your quiver.
I will reach into my quiver now and launch the spoiler arrow. Okay, we can spoil stuff now.
Yay! They're all dead. I'm sorry, what was it?
Yeah, it's going to be a really bizarre season. Everyone except Oliver is dead.
Yeah.
Hooray. What was that I said about being positive?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sorry, okay.
Yeah. So I think we should be more positive than we were in the Flash one in terms of structure. So I think we should just start with what we maybe didn't like about the season.
Oh.
I know. Let's throw a curve arrow in there.
Like a curve arrow.
It's not very good. It just comes back and stabs you in the face.
The boomerang arrow.
The boomerang arrow.
You fire it at your enemies and it comes back and stabs you. The bad things in the season. Let me think. There were some aspects where they didn't give the background characters the time or the development they could, because it's the same kind of issue that I've had with Flash, where the team has grown very, 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 very large. There are lots of them, and lots of ancillary characters off the back of that as well, and it doesn't give everyone space to breathe. It can be good in some ways and it can be bad in others, which is why kind of the ending of the season potentially could be good, because it allows them to clean the slate slightly out of excess. But yeah, like I say, overall it's been quite good, but I think that's one of the things, is sort of giving people development, or having enough time to give all the characters development.
My main negative was probably the resurgence of the Oliver and Felicity relationship. when they started heading down that road again, I was like, oh no, not again. Because it was just angst-ridden crap, you know, when they went... It was fine when they were a couple, because then it was... I mean, I keep talking about... I can't believe I never said this during the Flash podcast, but when it comes to relationships, these shows, certainly Flash, it likes to give you the milestones. So they get together, they live together, they break up, they get back together, you know, all those milestones, where you don't get any flavour of their relationship as it progresses. Whereas when Oliver and Felicity were a couple, they were a team. They were, you know, I don't want to say power couple, but that was essentially what they were. And that was fine up until you got to you lied to me about your son, and I'm not going to see your point of view at all, and now I'm going to break up with you. And then you had the resurgence of that, so you had a reiteration of the fact that Felicity's like, you know, I still love you, but I still can't trust you. You know, when you had that flashback episode where they were stuck in the bunker together. Well, the flashbacks, they weren't stuck in the bunker, they were just in the bunker, but in the present day they were stuck. In the flashbacks, it was a passionate night they had between seasons that we never saw, thankfully, until now. And it was like this, we can't be together until... Now it's back at the end of the season. It's like, they're probably going to get together next season, and I think the ship has sailed on that. Let it go. Yeah,
I think either guarantee them the relationship and leave it stable, or get rid of the will they, won't they?
Yeah,
with something definite.
Yeah, at least there's no love triangles.
No, Oliver saw to that. Or I suppose Prometheus saw to that. Oliver merely assisted.
Oh, God, yeah. You've just reminded me, I'd completely forgotten. Felicity's boyfriend. She had a boyfriend.
She had a boyfriend, so yeah.
I forgot about that.
Oh, how quickly we forget.
I do remember the fact that Oliver shot him with 3 arrows, though. That was grim. That wasn't bad, though. I mean, not that I wished he was dead, and, you know, I'm sure he was a perfectly nice guy, but yeah, that was pretty grim. That's about it for negatives, I suppose. Anything to do with relationship-y stuff. And you had that journalist woman that Oliver was hooking up with. That was weird.
Yeah, journalist scouting for information, pretty much.
Yeah, she was breaching some weird professional ethics there. Especially when she was like reporting on his campaign when she was like his girlfriend. That's like conflict of interest written all over it.
It's not the worst crime going on in that city, let's face it.
No, it's how the CW sees journalism. They see this glamorous occupation where everybody's all so well dressed and they work in well lit offices, and that's not how real journalism is. The most real depiction of journalism I've seen in television is probably Daredevil. You know, these like dank, musty offices where they're like, we can't sell papers anymore.
Yeah, up until the point where they give someone their own little corner office and just let them get on with whatever they want.
Yeah, that's just
then that stops becoming a realistic depiction. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's a different thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's about all. Yeah, relationship-y stuff. Let's get rid of that. That was all I really didn't like about the season on the whole. There was bits and pieces throughout that I thought were not as good as others. For instance, Curtis being on the team was fine, but putting him out in the field without any of his like gadgetry knowledge for a while he was just getting beaten up all the time.
I thought it was a bit weird when they did the auditions, for want of a better term, with the new team, and then you've got Curtis standing there, and I was like, where the hell did he come from? You know,
he's an Olympic gymnast, remember?
Were they short? Yeah. I remember that getting thrown in later on. I mean, I liked Curtis as a character, but I quite liked the fact that there was sort of a tag team support role going on in the bunker, rather than sort of having him out there in the field. I suppose now that he's got his balls, his spheres, then he's slightly more useful. But yeah, a bit odd at first, and he was basically just getting the hell kicked out of him each time, you know?
Yeah, there was other issues with the recruits that I'll come on to a bit later on, actually, but now we've got rid of the bad, let's get on to the good. And it's so much good. Do you have any kind of bullet points of your favourite stuff?
I've not got many bullet points. I've just kind of been free-rolling. However, I thought Prometheus towards the end, maybe not towards the beginning, was a good villain. I thought he was interesting and different and pretty well played, in my opinion. The fact that he basically held a mirror up to Oliver to show him what he's done and the damage he's caused, and to make him doubt himself, and all those ways to be so manipulative and get right underneath his skin, I think was a great way to do a villain. It was at some points uncomfortable to watch, the way he managed to get in there. So yeah, I think this villain is one of the best I've had on. I think definitely up there at least. I think his plans and everything became a bit flimsy towards the end, and I still don't quite understand how he has the means or the time to accomplish a lot of the things that he has done. It sort of goes from being, I have planned this to the detail, to, well, this is a calamity, to, oh, well, hang on, it's all played into my hands again. But yeah, I did. I quite liked the villain in this. I thought that sort of was quite a good plot.
Yeah, I liked Prometheus throughout, actually, especially when he was voiced by Michael Dorn for a while. They never credited him, but it was definitely him. It's got to be. I mean, no one else sounds like that.
It's been listed on a few sites as that, and I didn't quite believe it at first, because like you say, it wasn't credited, but it's there, on tons of sites, so...
Because when they did Zoom, it was like Tony Todd, they advertised it was Tony Todd, they were proud of the fact, but Michael Dorn, they were just like, nah, whatever. And let's not credit him. Maybe it was his wishes, or maybe he thinks his voice speaks for itself, which it most certainly does. But yeah, when you've got Michael Dorn yelling at you villainous stuff, you listen. And they didn't use enough of Michael Dorn. There's a negative. You didn't have long conversations with Michael Dorn speaking. But I suppose that was part of the allure, Oh, he doesn't say much. Because the more he says, the more he might tip his hand. So there you go.
It's always villains getting into monologues, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
Trick them into monologuing and they'll give away their entire plan. Yeah.
And I think they did a good job with the misdirect where it came to Prometheus' identity, because everybody was so sure that Vigilante was Adrian. Or I certainly was. Mostly because Josh Segarra, who played Adrian Chase, was definitely voicing Vigilante. So I don't know what's going on there. And they'll reveal that next season, apparently. But so I spent most of the season being like, yeah, he'll be Vigilante, especially because that's who he is in the comics. And then you had that unmasking scene that was like, oh no, what? Fair enough, it's a character we kind of know and have been getting to know for the whole season, but misdirecting by making you think he might be another villain is a good idea, because it's the next best thing, because otherwise you're just thinking, yeah, it's got to be him, he's the only new guy. I mean, there were other newer people, but still.
Especially playing with the comic book canon as well, because it sort of takes the wind out of everyone that way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you surprise the viewers, you surprise the readers who are also viewers. So yeah, cool. Holding up a mirror to Oliver Queen was an interesting idea. You've got this guy that understands him, who's a physical match for him, who's able to attack him mentally, who was created by him as well. That was important. And he was created by this innocuous event that Oliver barely remembers. You get that flashback where he's just tearing through this office building as the Hood, as he was known back in season 1, and it's an episode that we don't see, which is interesting because it's just another day at the office for Oliver Queen. If it had been an episode that we had seen in season 1 that had led to this thing, then it would have lessened the impact of Oliver didn't realise he was even doing this, or he didn't think about the consequences of his actions back then.
But it's very believable as something that would have happened at that time. It doesn't seem jarring at all, because you remember seeing episodes of him just working his way through that list, tearing through very similar office buildings,
Yeah. Well, on its own, it's not interesting enough to give us an episode about, because it was just, it was another day at the office. Or another day destroying an office. So that was good. And the way, I think towards the end, there was a bit of the how could he possibly have known that Oliver would do this to set this trap? There's a lot of that going on. Although I thought the episode where he captured Oliver and tortured him to the point where he broke him was really good. I mean, it was really brutal. I felt uncomfortable watching it. But it was really interesting how he got Oliver to admit that he became the Hood because he likes killing and nothing else. And that wasn't true, but it got to the point where Oliver was almost believed it was true, and it took him a long time to come back from that. Well, not a long time, it was like 3 episodes, but it felt like a long time. Great villain, just a great villain, and yeah, he's the best one since Slade, who we also see this season, so...
Yeah,
amazing.
We get a surprise Slade, but he's calmer, he's still chilled now.
Yeah.
Not quite peace and love, but close enough.
I suppose that almost counts as a bad, although, I mean, I like the fact that... So what you've got is Slade Wilson on screen, and, you know, he has to be helping Oliver, so you've got to remove this possibility of them fighting, I suppose. So what you've got is this, it was Mirakuru that made me hate you, which is, it's kind of annoying because it undermines his motivation in season 2. You know, because he said, he said in season 2 that the Mirakuru wasn't controlling his actions, but I suppose it was amplifying his hatred and all that stuff. But the idea that all I had to do was let the drugs wear off, and then I'm okay. Then we're buds again. That was a bit. Yeah, but I understood why they needed to do it for the finale, so that you had Slade on team. That was, I suppose, that was a sacrifice that had to be made in one way. That's a shame that it didn't. But yeah, Slade, who will be returning for a couple of episodes next season with his own flashbacks.
Looking forward to seeing that. I actually liked some of the Mayor storylines towards the beginning and what they did with Thea. I think we mentioned this in the mid-season podcast, I think. But I kind of enjoyed some of the elements of that. It was an interesting change in the dynamics and stuff. I think having Quentin in there as well sort of made a little change, and it was interesting seeing the characters work in a slightly different way. And some of those storylines were good fun. Seeing that world sort of expand a little bit and putting them in a different situation, I thought was quite good fun. Seeing the sort of conflict between the two sides, and another one of these sort of trying to hide the identity things. I don't think he would have quite gotten away with it. In reality, I think there's a lot of bits there that just wouldn't have happened. But I was expecting it all to come unstuck by the end, especially with the journalist digging.
Yeah, Thea in that position where she didn't want to be out in the streets firing arrows at people anymore because it was messing her up, was really good. And usually when they take a character and put them in a different role, it doesn't quite work. I don't say usually, and I don't know who they are, but you know, I've seen it in shows where they've just tried to give character something else to do and it's not as good. But with Thea, it was a natural role for her, and the bit where she was staring people down and giving them a piece of her mind was great. The fact that, you know, they found a way to fold her into Quentin's story about his relapsing alcoholism. That was really good. I liked the father-daughter bond they sort of developed. It was actually more a mother-son bond with Thea as the mother, even though she's like, I don't know, 30 years younger than him or something like that. 40 years younger, something like that. He's I don't know how old Quentin is. I've always liked Quentin as well. You know, I've always had a soft spot for Quentin. And the way they did his alcoholism was, I mean, I've never known anybody who's went through that, but from what I've been told, the whole idea of him relapsing and constantly fighting against it and stuff, the fact that he's not just magically okay after getting over it a few years ago is interesting enough. You know, there's that thing about how he's like one bad day away from going off the boil, and Thea helps bring him back from that because she understands this kind of urge that he has, because she had an urge to kill people. I think it really worked. And the other bit I quite liked was Quentin and Renee's little camaraderie in the office as well. Hawes.
Yes.
Yeah, and Renee's getting his daughter back thing that kind of doesn't go anywhere, but that's because he gets kidnapped. Can't help that.
The bit of camaraderie and development that's there, though, I think was really good.
Yeah. Although there's a Season 5 drinking game that you could have. And I noticed this eventually. Basically, in almost every episode, there is a point in the episode where someone, usually Oliver, while talking to Felicity, will say, "Can we have the room?" to whoever else is there. And they have to leave. It happens in almost every episode. And it's just so funny. Someone will say something, Oliver will say, "Can we have the room?" And then, stuff's going to go down. Stuff's about to be said that might not be comfortable. But it does happen a lot.
I see, now I'm not going to be able to avoid seeing that now.
Yeah, it's quite funny. I don't know if they'll still do it next season. I imagine so. But, so yeah, Thea in a different space. Although her randomly disappearing for like several episodes at a time was a bit weird. She would just be gone, and then she would come back one week and it'd be like, "Oh yeah, I was away at a spa" or something like that. But that was all good stuff. On to the team. So Team Arrow was changed this season because they recruited some new members reluctantly at first. Oliver didn't want to recruit new members, and he was pretty harsh on them. So you had let me get this straight. At first, so you had Renee, aka
Wild Dog, or whatever
Wild Dog, Mad Dog.
Mad Dog. There you go.
Was it Mad Dog or Wild Dog?
No idea. Probably Mad Dog.
Yeah, one of them. Yes, Wild Dog. That was it. I'm looking at it right now. So you had that. You had Curtis, who we already knew. And I may have interviewed him fairly recently, by the way. Self-plug. I'll sound the gong.
Is that podcast available now, Craig?
It may be, from all good podcast retailers. Yes.
There you go. Consider it massively self-plugged.
Yes. So, yeah, you had Wild Dog, you had, I think she was called Artemis once, Evelyn Sharp, who cosplayed as Black Canary in Season 4, which is a bit dodgy in itself, because Oliver essentially recruits a teenage girl. Which is, weird. Who else was there?
Rag and Bone Man.
Ah, Ragman. Yeah, but he didn't show up until a little bit later. Yeah, Ragman. Yeah. He was cool. He was he had nuclear rags and stuff.
Yeah, he had really useful powers and then vanished.
Yeah.
Conveniently.
He vanished after he absorbed a nuclear warhead. It's like, not another nuke. Which is bizarre. I guess, they explained it that those rags were magical and they absorbed the blast when Felicity nuked his city instead of nuking another city, which they didn't make enough of, actually. They had this, "I'm really sorry for nuking your city," and then he's like, "Yeah, I suppose that's alright. Nothing we can do about it now." So yeah, the new team, team dynamic was pretty interesting. I liked the idea of Oliver having to recruit new people that he wasn't familiar with, because when Team Arrow was in its heyday, he had Diggle, who was his best friend, right hand man. Laurel, who he reluctantly lets on the team. Roy, who was his sidekick for a bit. Thea, who was
yeah, they were all people that had sort of been naturally added rather than recruited.
Yeah, and they were all close to him, so they all knew him and they all kind of understood him in a way, and they respected him, which was the important thing, I suppose. Whereas the new team really didn't. Renee did not respect him in the beginning. Wouldn't follow orders, was reckless, and Oliver was a really crappy leader as well. He was expecting people to blindly follow orders, he wasn't waiting for the trust to be built, and I like the way they fed that into the flashbacks. You saw him training the team at the same time he was getting trained by the Bratva. And the flashbacks were designed to show you this is not the way you should train people. And Oliver was aping it, and it wasn't until he realised he had to do something different and earn their trust that he started making progress with them.
Yeah, they're not. It's not really the teaching manual that you want to take, the Bratva teaching manual, is it?
No, definitely not. And it was like the purpose of this exercise is to work together, and then we shoot everyone else who who works with you. Like, well, whatever. Later on, you had a new Black Canary. Although she be named that yet? I think she was once. She started her off as Tina, but that was an alias. She was revealed to be Dinah Drake. And she has a sonic scream, which puts a metahuman on Team Arrow again, which is pretty cool. After they lost Ragman, who was essentially a metahuman. She was a good character, I thought. I liked Dinah. I thought she was a nice foil for everyone else because she was kind of the experienced cop, and she was happy following orders to a degree. She had a lot of stuff to sort through as well, and the camaraderie she had with Diggle, because they'd both kind of been disgraced in their employment. That was good. Do you have any further thoughts on Dinah? When she was introduced a bit later in the series and so on.
Yeah, I think she was an alright introduction. I'm going to kind of stick by what I said at the beginning, that I think the team is kind of a bit bloated. So, to focus on Dinah joining it then means that some of the people that are already there have got to go on the quiet, or like you say, just vanish completely and go for a spa day in order to in order to justify the reason that they're not there. I think it's it's all right. I like that they've kind of had a bit of a rotating lineup with people dropping in and out. But I think having too many people on the team kind of makes it a bit difficult to make the villain vulnerable. So there was a lot in this season of everyone being tied up. The majority of people being tied up or away or locked in a room or conveniently trapped somewhere else in order to justify why this has now become such a big task, or Oliver simply just not inviting anyone else along to the party and then getting stuck. I do think it's sort of a team that takes a while to learn that it's actually a team, and they do get there eventually, obviously, but I do think that it is a bit heavy with team members at the moment.
I agree and disagree there. I think they made a good distinction between the main characters and the supporting characters. So you would always give more focus to Diggle, Oliver and Felicity, who were obviously the original team. And then, you've got Thea and Quentin off doing their thing off to the side, and then whatever time is left is given to the rest of the team. Curtis we already knew, and they probably gave him more screen time than they necessarily needed to, because he was the better developed of the new lot. For instance, Evelyn, they didn't bother to develop her pretty much at all. You had that brief bit where she talked about how difficult it was for her to work with Oliver after she's still blaming him for killing her parents. A bit sketchy on that. So you've got that Renee being reckless and eventually trusting him, and Renee started to feed into the other characters in different ways as the season went on. But focusing on the team as a plot point for Oliver being a crappy leader at first was a good move, I think. So that's all they were. They were, they were this group of people that he was beating the crap out of. While he realised that he shouldn't really be beating the crap out of them. And then they started to develop kind of organically from there. And then when Dinah showed up, she sat in the background for quite a while, sadly. So when she was introduced, it took a little while for her to start asserting her own personality, which was not the best in that sense. But again, weirdly, it was a 23-episode season, but it felt like they needed a bit more time to just do everything, Interesting. And obviously you had Felicity's arc of her becoming a hacker person That was,
Yeah, I was going to mention that, or joining sort of Helix.
Yeah.
Which I thought was like a pretty interesting introduction, that there's this sort of shadow group in the background that have access to almost everything, you know?
Yeah. Think they could rescue my dead hard drive?
Maybe, you never know.
I'll reach out to them. I'll reach out to Brunette Felicity.
They're probably already listening. They already know, Craig. They already know. Maybe they did it.
Maybe. Brunette Felicity, essentially. I think her name was Alina, something like that. But yeah, she's Brunette Felicity. I keep saying facility. Yeah. I don't know. I thought that was kind of a... It was a bit too much of a... Oh, look, she's went through a bit of a trauma, so therefore she must go down a really dark path sort of story. And what you had was when... what was Ragman's real name? I forget. Ragman. Yeah, he was like her conscience in a way. He was like, I can't believe you're doing this. Please stop. And then he disappears and she has no conscience anymore. Yeah. Rory. That was his name.
Rory, yeah. See, I always get confused with Roy, because you had a Roy, you've now got a Rory.
And you've got a Rory over on Legends of Tomorrow as well. Well, that's Mick Rory. But, yeah. Well, so what did you think of Felicity's descent into the dark side?
I kind of liked it, but it gave her something to do. It gave her something to sort of stand on her own. I suppose that's what the character was actually wanting to do. You know, I'm doing this for me. You know, that she was pushing. I think some of it seemed just a bit too convenient. It was sort of along the lines of our... you know, it was... we need to be able to get this information that there's no way we could possibly know. Well, conveniently, I've got a store where I can go and get any information I want at all. Yeah. But I did like that. There was always a trade-off on that. You know, it was like she would get her information, but they asked something, and it got deeper and deeper each time. And I kind of like that she sort of got dragged down that path, and then in the end, they just abandon her and leave her there. You know, once they've got what they want. Yeah,
Helix weren't a resource that they could just tap into whenever they wanted without consequence. I like when there's consequences to anything, so it's like, we'll give you the information to make sure Diggle is no longer a traitor to the cause, and therefore you will you will help us out down the line by rescuing this guy who never takes that bag over his head off. Because we're planning to cast him next year, probably. That's how transparent that was, I think. Things like that. Yeah, you've always got that.
Yeah, I did like it because, there's a lot of the times in shows you will get that resource of information and they can just tap it whenever they like at a convenience note. Whereas with this, it was like there were consequences each time they asked for something and they escalated.
Yeah, and everyone was like, Felicity, what the hell are you doing? She's like, stop it, I can handle this. And then eventually she gets kicked out for her loyalties being divided. Because she was affiliated with Team Arrow, there was lines she wouldn't cross. And then she got kicked out eventually, but not without them giving her something. Oh yeah, they gave her that piece of information on Prometheus that they could use. I think it was the picture of him unmasking or something like that. Something like that.
Yes.
Yeah. There was that. Although I kept wondering when it came to Diggle, being a wanted fugitive, since the president gave Green Arrow a medal for helping fight aliens, someone could have said, by the way, my friend John Diggle, he's in a spot of bother. Couldn't have that scrubbed, could you? Just a thought.
That would be too convenient, Craig.
It would. And yeah, then you wouldn't have that entire episode where he gets arrested and Oliver has to break him out of prison. And although he does have that hallucination of Deadshot.
Yeah, I thought that was quite an interesting way of doing it, having him there and I'm sort of essentially talking to himself.
Yeah.
I thought it was a cool sort of way to bring back Deadshot.
Yeah, I don't think they could. I don't think they should have pretended he was actually ever real, because it was pretty obvious that he was hallucinating in the first place. Although maybe that's because I know that that DC films won't let the TV show use the character unless it's like some kind of altered state of some sort. Who knows?
It seems a shame because he was quite fun when he was on the show. So, he was a good character.
Yeah, he certainly was. Sadly, he's gone, at least for now. So what did you think of the flashbacks this year? This season 5 flashbacks.
I'm glad that they've decided that they're going to finally wrap them up, because it was beginning to seem like he didn't spend any time on that island whatsoever. But it was... I thought the storyline was quite good about seeing how he was inducted into the Bratva eventually, and because it was kind of one of the last things outstanding really from that. But yeah, I'm glad they've decided to wrap it up.
Yeah, I don't think they've necessarily fully wrapped up the flashbacks. I think they're just going to change how they use them, and they maybe won't be in every episode anymore. It'll be for instance, I already talked about how they're planning Deathstroke flashbacks. So you get, periodically you'll get a flashback into some other character's past of some sort. Or maybe a flash forward, or a flash sideways, or, something like that. Or maybe just a Flash appearance, as in the Flash will turn up. There's all sorts of things that they could do with that plot device. And I think they can use them just as little one-shot things to enhance the story that they're telling in that episode. I thought the flashbacks, they did a good job of being relevant, which they haven't been for the past couple of seasons. You had these kind of loose connections, such as Oliver learning how to get out of being tied up. Mm. I think it might have been the first episode of the season, you had the "no one can know my secret" thing twice. Once in the flashback and once in the present day as he killed a guy. And yeah, the Bratva stuff was interesting. It was quite interesting to find out how he kind of fell out of favour with Anatoly, his Russian friend. Because they had to kind of break down his friendship. The Talia al Ghul stuff was okay, but the fact that he was like cutting about wearing the Green Arrow, or the original Hood Arrow costume in Russia 5 years ago was a bit like, nah, why is he doing that? But the whole idea of he can turn his killer instinct into a separate identity was something they hadn't really touched on before, and that was interesting. How Anatoly was like, if you think you can keep those two sides separate by wearing a green hood, you're sadly mistaken. That was good, because it was just everybody, including probably the audience, thought it was stupid, and Season 5 essentially proved that you couldn't separate those two sides of himself.
Mm.
Yeah, relevant flashbacks. At least
I think they were relevant, and they were, like I say, I think it was a good sort of arc this time, and it did tie in with what was going on in the rest of the plot.
Yeah, some episodes were a bit slow, but that's going to happen anyway. I quite liked having Dolph Lundgren in the flashbacks. He was quite a formidable presence. And it was just cool to see him. He was Konstantin Kovar, that was the character's name. And he was good. Turns out he's that skeleton that's lying on the island because Oliver killed him. And so I thought it was absolutely hilarious that the super long hair and beard that he had at the start of season 1 was a wig. Yes. So what,
I've got something in this box that'll help you out. Yeah.
Do we see the flashback where he gets taken to a hairdresser and he's like, no need, and just whaps off the wig? I just thought it was hilarious. But it was getting towards the end of the season. I was like, he's not growing his hair. It's not growing fast enough to be Crazy Island Oliver.
Yeah, they're going to need to do a really fast forward flashback to him just sitting there waiting for his beard to grow.
Yeah, and then he just wears a wig at the end. I thought the way they wrapped it up was really good. where you see him get on the boat and then he talks to Moira, and that was a nice little cameo from Susanna Thompson in the last episode.
Yeah, it was a nice way of doing that, actually.
Yeah. So the flashbacks have kind of come full circle, which is nice. Thematically, they tie into the present day, which also ended on the island, fittingly, as Oliver went into a final showdown with Prometheus, aka Adrian Chase. And I had a great time with the last episode where he, or the penultimate episode and the last episode, where he kind of recruited his team, his alternate team, to take on the island with him to bring down Adrian, and it was Nyssa, Malcolm Merlin, and Slade, and Captain Boomerang, who instantly betrayed them.
The thing I found funny was I read it on. I'm very sorry, Craig. I read it on another website. Someone was calling it like the villains that we love too much for them to kill. People like Merlin that keep popping up, and it's like, he's evil. Just get rid of him. No. We like him too much. Keep him. It's and the inevitable betrayal by at least one of them. Everyone's sitting there thinking it's going to be Slade, and it's not. It's Captain Boomerang.
Although the fact that they did a fake-out betrayal from Slade twice in the same episode was a bit much. It's like, the first time, get away with that, fine. All right. Now you've established he is actually on Oliver's side. The second time, nah. You're not. That's like, okay. You're doing this for shock value, and you're not shocking anyone. Seems that Malcolm dies. I don't believe it, but it seems that he does.
I will use my same theory as I always use until I see the severed head.
Even with Malcolm, that wouldn't convince me. But the way they handled his supposed death, in inverted commas, was quite well done, actually. The bit where he was trying to convince Thea that he did care about her, and she was having none of it, and then he dies a few minutes later. And she's conflicted over it because she knows that he was a bad man, but also doesn't want to be glad that someone is dead, especially when it's her father. And you had that conversation between her and Felicity, where Felicity talks about she knows what it's like to have an evil dad, and she understands where she's coming from, and it's very complicated, and it's a complicated set of emotions, and it's perhaps the wrong time for them to be exploring that because they're she was careless enough to step on a landmine before, and she's run out of dads to kill themselves for her.
Yeah, I mean the whole island's a blooming landmine now anyway, so it's
that was a bit overkill. I have spent weeks laying C4 over this island, and I fitted a dead man switch to my person. As soon as I die, the whole thing goes up.
Yeah, it's every part of the island, not just like, I've put it in some very key locations. It is, I have littered the entire island with a network of C4 and different triggers,
It's impressive, though. It's very impressive. Well, that was a striking final shot, wasn't it? The destroyed island.
Yes. I mean, it does leave a lot of questions as to who's going to survive. I have the feeling that the majority are. Yeah. Yeah.
Since the whole island thing was about, well, it wasn't just Oliver rescuing his son, but that was definitely a big part of it. I think that it's a good bet that Samantha, the mother, dies, and Oliver is landed with a son that he has to raise now.
It seems like that from the trailer that they've shown, doesn't it?
Yeah. It does. And it would make sense because that's, I mean, ultimately what you've got is 5 years of Oliver Queen reclaiming his humanity. So now you've got now he's done that. At least to a point where he can grow as a person. He can learn things. He can, he's looking at the world a bit differently, even though the island lessons will never quite go away. But he's now at the point where he's made a kind of peace with it and a kind of peace with himself. So the next logical step is for him to impart wisdom onto a son, the son that he has, which makes a dramatic sense based on the fact that the show is moving on past what it has been defined by for so long.
Yeah, it's definitely their chance to sort of rock it up and change it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I imagine that nobody else is dead, though. But who knows? Who knows? It would actually seem that the past is a bit of a theme for the season anyway, or, well, the show in general, but particularly this season, it's about kind of your past comes back. And, of course, we had the return of Laurel, although with a twist. Her Earth 2 counterpart became part of Arrow now, because she showed up in Flash in Season 2, and now she came over to Arrow, and she was used by Prometheus to make Oliver feel upset and throw a spanner in the works while she pretends to be the original. Although she doesn't pretend to be the original for very long, because she can't get away with it for very long, so they skip straight to the, yeah, I'm Black Siren.
Yes, I am evil.
Well, they flesh her out, though, don't they? I mean, it starts off with her being, yeah, I'm Black Siren, I'm going to scream and knock things down, and then you get that kind of insight into how she became that way, what diverged the two versions of Laurel, and it was to do with when Oliver was killed on Earth 2. She was like directionless and wound her up in Central City and was doused with some particle accelerator stuff and became Black Siren, became a villain, fell in with a bad crowd, aka Zoom, and there she is.
Yeah, no, I kind of liked bringing her in. It kind of comes around to what I was saying about Prometheus in the first place. It's a proper sort of getting into Oliver's mind and what will really rile him up while his former flame appearing. Evil or otherwise would completely throw a spanner in the way that you were thinking.
Yeah, and she's rejoining the cast for next season. So I imagine she'll be some kind of recurring menace for them, which would be nice. A lot of people would criticise Laurel as being a bad character, but I always kind of liked her. I just, as with most female characters on these shows, wasn't always used effectively. But when they started getting into her, like alcoholism itself, the way she dealt with the death of her sister and all that stuff, it was really interesting. And I know this isn't the same Laurel, but Katie Cassidy just seems to have so much more fun playing Black Siren. She just seems to have a blast, just, turning up to 12.
They all seem to enjoy playing evil versions.
Yeah.
I think everyone sort of seems to get a little kick off of it when you see them doing these alternate Earths and all that. They all seem to just relish the opportunity to go a bit nuts. I don't know if it's because if they've been playing the same character for so long.
It gets a bit stale, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it's just good to do something different now and again, yeah. It was good to see the two Sonic Scream characters have a bit of a tussle in the finale. That was a nice touch. Where they do the screaming at each other thing and knock each other over. And I think that Black Siren being about, well, the new Black Canaries on the team is going to be a bit of an interesting dynamic, because you'll have this, is she just a poor replacement for the original me, that kind of thing. So it's good shout, good, interesting stuff. Sort of tied into that, although not really, but it's just an appearance of Katie Cassidy, we already kind of talked about it, but the 100th episode, which unfortunately happened in the middle of the crossover. Unfortunately for the crossover, but fortunately for Arrow, I think, because it gave them an excuse to create a holodeck fantasy that gives them their fantasy life, I suppose.
Yeah, they can have, and they could also, allowed them to bring back anyone that they wanted to, which was a nice way of doing it, actually, that they could sort of pull any character they wanted back in.
Yeah, and I absolutely loved the way that they managed to celebrate the 100 episodes by getting into the core of the show and giving Laurel a bit of the original Laurel a bit of a send-off. Let her go with a bit of dignity, in the sense that, that version of Laurel was due to be married to Oliver, which, made me think that they might try and have a bit of a relationship between him and Black Siren later on. That's a bit weird, I suppose. Second chance with a different version of her who looks like her. That's maybe a bit weird, but I would maybe like to see them go down that route a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd enjoy that. I think it would be a bit weird, but it depends on what they do with the character now that they've not got Prometheus in there pulling strings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be sort of a frenemies type thing.
Yeah. It's amazing how Prometheus managed to break into Star Labs to sneak out Black Siren. They never noticed. Idiots.
It was all the planning. At the same time he was going down and buying all that C4, he just nipped by Star Labs and picked himself up some Earth-2 doppelgangers.
But they were like... yeah. But it was almost like that, okay, right, we know this isn't our Laurel. And it's like, yeah, I called Cisco and he just happened to notice that, like, she's not in her cell. So, okay. And you never thought to report this. Why?
Well, they were very distracted.
Oh, jeez. Distracted by their own incompetence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say any spoilers here. Go and check out our Flash podcast. Internal plug klaxon, go.
It's a gong. It's
a gong, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, is it a gong? Okay, like ding the gong then, or bang the gong, or whatever. Yeah.
Was there any particular episodes that you can think of that stood out for you as being particularly strong, or any other things that you thought were really strong as a whole?
Well, you've already mentioned one of my favourites, which was the 100th episode, because they were able to sort of pull lots of different people in, and I kind of liked the way they did that. I think the final episode was also actually quite a lot of fun, just because it was sort of the uniting that team together and building his weird, sort of his own sort of villain Avengers. For one of the team, what am I trying to think of here? What was the film that came out that I hated?
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Yeah, there we go. Pulling together his own Suicide Squad. I think was quite, was quite good. I enjoyed that. I'm sure I'm forgetting a couple of really good episodes in the middle there as well. But I've not got the list in front of me to have a look at. They all sort of merging together.
Yeah. Well, as I said, I thought the torture episode was particularly powerful. It was quite grim. I think my least favourite episode was the Oliver and Felicity trapped in a bunker episode, just to offset that. I did enjoy the finale a lot. I liked Oliver pulling together his team of misfits. And, I always like seeing Nyssa. She's always I was going to say a good laugh. She's never a good laugh. She's not that funny. But she is good. She's good value. It's a shame you don't really see her fight her sister that much. The introduction of Talia was a bit mixed. I thought she was okay with her weird English accent. And I quite like that she hated Oliver because he killed her father. That was her motivation for helping out Prometheus. For training him to defeat Oliver and things. So that all made sense. Malcolm's always good fun. John Barrowman's great. I like John Barrowman. Especially in this show.
I think he's really, really good in this, but I just find it funny because, over here he's not taken particularly seriously, but in America he's he's managing to get roles like this.
Yeah.
It's not that he isn't taken seriously, it's more that he's such a fun, it seems that he's just such a fun character in real life that to be playing a role like that is, very odd to see him in that.
And we'll talk about him more during the Legends of Tomorrow podcast, of course.
Yes.
But that is in the future, also the past.
And the present, and in alternate Earths.
Yes.
And timelines, yeah.
Indeed. Oliver's team made sense from an internal consistency of the show point of view, but I think we had this conversation off the air once about how wouldn't it be cool if he went to get Superman from, Kara's Earth? And some other superhuman people.
Yeah, I mean, it does. That's one of the things with all the combination there of having them all together. You think when he was going out and he was going, no, I'm going to get Malcolm Merlin and I'm going to get Nyssa and I'm going to get that. I was like, I would think that if he was going to pick a team, or if I was going to pick a team, I'd go and get the Flash and Supergirl and call the legends, call whoever you want. But, those people surely are the folk that you call first, rather than, Malcolm. I don't know. Maybe I'm just overthinking it somewhat.
Well, I think, Malcolm kind of forced himself into the situation, to be fair. Yeah. As he always does. Nyssa made sense with her sister being there. Slade, great, whatever. Let's have him. But, have Superman for backup. Ask Superman if he has a few minutes to disarm an entire island of explosives and save his son from a cage and save everyone else. And, and then, I don't know, whisk them back to the city.
Would have been a lot quicker an episode, though.
It would have been, yeah. It's like, I'm 10 steps ahead of you. I have Superman. It's like, well, I didn't know he existed, so that's a problem.
Yeah.
That would have been hilarious, though. If it
I think you'll find I've borrowed evil Superman from Earth 21.
Oh no, I didn't think of that.
No, curses.
Oh yeah, that would have been so weird. But keeping it internally consistent with Arrow, I know it would never occur to Oliver Queen to go recruiting across the multiverse. But yeah, maybe getting Sarah involved. I don't know. I'd like to see Sarah meeting her not sister. That'd be interesting.
Definitely.
Yeah. He could have went to get the original. Well, it's not the original, but technically the original Vixen is the one we're looking at now in Legends. That's another podcast. But the Vixen version that was introduced in the animated show, but was reintroduced in the season 4 episode. Sorry. I thought he might have went to get her with her dolphin powers and stuff, but he didn't.
That would have been another one that would have made sense.
Yeah, but they've only got so much money to spend, and a few people with swords, a bit cheaper than women with infinite animal powers. So we've already talked a bit about how season 5 wraps up the island plot in the past, but also seemingly in the present. It ties up these kind of endings together so the show can move forward. What do you think of that as a concept? Do you think it's wrapped things up successfully, drew a line under it nicely? I personally feel that with a few tweaks, the season 5 finale could have been the show finale completely, because it does, for me, it just puts a lot of things, in a perspective. It closes off a lot of avenues and makes things... It wipes the slate clean in a lot of ways, although not completely, but to a certain degree.
I think you're right. I've never really thought of it like that, but now that you say it, yeah, I think it could, if being written differently, be a sort of series finale, because you've spent so much time on that island, be it I'm using it as a prison or the flashbacks and everything. Now it's going to be completely obliterated and blown up. So it is sort of tying a little bow around that and going, well, that is now finished, apart from, there might be the odd flashback or whatever, but there's now a big line under there. So, yeah, I do think it's going to be interesting seeing what they do going forward, because the island and a lot of that story has always been a generator for villains or other people that show up later on in a way of explaining things. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that differently. It is past that point. It's into its 5th season, so they need to rock it up and they need to do something different. I'm not sure how they're going to top this season, because I think it was very, very good in the way it finished it. And it might be that we now have another season where they're going to have to slowly build something up. I'm hoping not, and I'm sure they'll manage it in some way that I haven't thought of, because they're a lot more cleverer than I am.
Yeah. Well, don't sell yourself short.
Yeah. If anything, I'm overselling.
Yeah, the island thing being over with is fine, because we've had 5 years of it. It's like when Doctor Who, where they talk about the Time War, and eventually you want them to shut up about the Time War. So... there's, I talk about the drinking game of, can we have the room? But there's another drinking game that you can get through the entire seasons. Wherever Oliver upsets someone, particularly in season 1 and 2, and they kick off at him for some reason. He's like, I'm really sorry, but I was on an island for 5 years. He uses that as an excuse for everything.
Yeah, but as we've found out, he's been around a lot of people for those 5 years.
I was on an island for 2 and a bit years, actually, but yeah.
Yeah, and not concurrently.
Yeah, and you had that bit where the journalist discovered that, I can't even remember her name. Was it Carly?
Yeah, she discovers the pictures of him.
The actress's name was Carly. I can't remember it doesn't matter. Yeah, she discovers pictures of him in, like, Russia, and then she discovers a picture of the Green Arrow in Russia. Or not the Green Arrow, but the Hood, and she puts it together, and then they don't really do anything with it. I suppose he saves her life later on and proves that he's not such a bad guy after all. But I was really hoping they would build that up to be another problem, maybe for this season. It still will.
Well, if she's put it together, you can imagine that someone else is doing something similar.
Well, it's blindingly obvious. Anybody that's seen the Green Arrow up close notices that he has a face mask and designer stubble. Look, or the mayor has designer stubble. But yeah, I think a big part of this season was Oliver, as I said, reclaiming his humanity, and he's got a bit of a realisation of what it actually takes to be a hero. So you see a lot of the work he does as mayor is about improving the city in different ways. So you've got like gun control, which he does a bit of. Social things, social enterprise stuff, creating jobs, all that stuff. He realises that's important to stop crime from happening in the first place. So as Green Arrow, he can solve the stuff he still needs to deal with, but as mayor, he can make the city better in ways where it starts to heal itself. So I think, at first it was about taking names off the list, and now it's about making the city a better place, and he gets to inspire people as mayor, and Green Arrow gets to inspire people in different ways, in a different way to how you would as mayor, and it's an interesting little dynamic there because it makes use of the two identities rather than having one feel like it's just getting in the way. In The Flash, Barry Allen feels like he gets in the way of The Flash because he still has to go and be normal and do his work and stuff. So they don't show you him at the police station very often because it gets in the way of the story they want to tell. But with this mayor plot line, it really complemented the superhero side of it.
No, I think it worked really well this year, and like I say, some of the stuff, the joining between him being mayor and being the Arrow at the same time, I kind of liked the play between the two, and it gave it something a bit different, and I think it worked out.
Definitely, yeah. And I look forward to seeing how they keep combining the two next season, or they'll have some kind of... They'll throw a spanner in the works that'll put his mayoral career at risk, like they kind of did with the impeachment side of things, but maybe a bit more. So, this isn't the end of the show, naturally. We have a Season 6, and possibly beyond. So what would you like to see in Season 6? But before answering that, I'll list off some of the other stuff, some of the stuff that has been confirmed. So they've confirmed that William, his son, will have a bigger role. Dinah will get a new suit, which we have seen. I'll put a link in the show notes to the picture of it. Apparently she'll get a new love interest as well. Whatever. They don't do these very well very often. Slade, Deathstroke flashbacks, as I've already mentioned. A couple of new characters. They've cast Michael Emerson, who was on Lost, I think. You can correct me there if I'm wrong.
I will take your word for it.
Yeah, Michael Emerson's in it, and that's something that Stephen Amell was very excited about. There's a cast interview video at Comic-Con, which is where he finds out when someone asks him a question about Michael Emerson being on the show, and he reacts with, "What? Wow." It's really good. Link will be in the show notes if I can find it. Apparently the villains, the theme of the season is going to be family, and the villains are going to be following that theme. There'll be a group of them, a cabal rather than a single foe, so that's a more interesting prospect, I think.
I think it sounds like they're rocking it up. It sounds good to me.
Yeah, everything on paper sounds like a good idea. It's whether obviously it's concept versus execution.
Yes.
Yeah. In season 6, I want to see the family theme continued. I want to see the team continuing to gel. Supporting cast getting more to do, which they were starting to by the time they started to feel like more of the plot. So, you can imagine Renee's story about him trying to get his daughter back will grow. Rory might come back. I hope so. Now that I remember his name. Other stuff. I hope they can keep the villains feeling as well developed. Because with a lot of them, it might mean that they're less developed. Need to watch out for that.
Yeah, but like you've said, if they can focus, 5 episodes at a time per villain or something along those lines, then it might feel a little bit different and change it up a little.
Yeah. And you'll have Black Siren kicking about anyway, so any chance to develop her is good in my book. And I kind of want to see a bit more interaction between different members of the team. So you see a lot of Oliver hanging around with Felicity or Oliver hanging around with Diggle, but you start to see little shades of what is Diggle's relationship to Renee, or what about Renee's relationship to Felicity, or what's Thea's relationship to I don't know.
I do like when they
someone.
I do like when they change it out and they do put odd people together that wouldn't normally meet. I mean, they've done it in quite a few shows where they go, do you know what? We never write this person being in a car with this person. And it can be as simple as that. You get to see a shot of two doing a stakeout, and it's two people that you don't normally see conversing for that long, and it's a way of doing it naturally without making it seem like you've crowbarred it in.
Yeah, and there was that great scene with them sitting in a diner when they were looking for Tina, as she was known at the time. Dinah, later on. They were in a diner looking for Dinah. Yeah, but but it was just, they were sitting having a chat, and then there was that bit where Oliver phoned Captain Singh, I think it was, the Central City police guy, and asked for information. And then the guy, he was like, "Who's calling?" And he hesitates for a bit before he decides, "I'll go as Green Arrow, I'll get the information that way." Because he could do it as Oliver Queen as well. And then he makes Barry run in and leave a post-it note on the screen saying he's legit. That was a good moment. And you say, like, Barry is just a visual effect in that scene. You don't actually see him, but if you pause it at the right time, you see the outline of the Flash. That was a cool little scene. I don't know, I just felt like I had to mention that. Stuff like that, though. Them just sitting having a chat. Quentin and Renee, they would often have little conversations. They were nice to look at.
Yeah, like I say, I think their little relationship was one of my favourite things. They bounced off really well off together. So
yeah, and Renee hitting on Thea was quite funny because she was like not interested, and then he would try again. She's like still not interested. Thea will not be tied down to she will not put up with harassment. She could also break his neck, probably, so something to watch out for. So, Arrow Season 5. We liked it. Nice and positive.
Overall, really, really enjoyed it. Like everything, it had its odd bits and pieces that I didn't like, but overall, I thought it was a return to form to the show. I think it's doing really well. It did really well for its 5th season. Hopefully, their 6th follows along the same. Yeah,
let's hope for a uniformly excellent DC TV season.
Bring it on.
And we only have one more show to talk about, which will happen soon.
Yay!
So, thank you for joining me. I hope you resolve your 5 minutes. For 5 minutes I was without internet, and now I walk around clobbering people with an iron.
I will get over it eventually by using 2 irons, then I'll get over it twice as fast.
And then you'll realise that you have to tie your iron killing life into your other life.
Yeah. The two will collide together.
That's it. Somehow podcasting and murdering people with irons will combine into something.
Yeah. Well, you'll know what happens on the next podcast then.
Wow, that analogy went nowhere. Anyway, on
For
that
legal
note,
reasons, I must point out.
yeah, on that note, I think I'm going to press the button on this C4, and I'm going to obliterate this podcast.
Oh, but when you obliterate me and you obliterate the podcast, remember that the bomb set under you will also obliterate. So
That was the plan all along.
yeah, that was it. I spent a long time setting all that out.
Yeah, there was all sorts of planning, and some henchmen were hired. It was amazing.
Mm.
So yeah, thank you for joining, as always.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
It's good to be positive.
Yay.
Positive people live longer, so let's be positive. So that was our discussion of Arrow Season 5. Thanks to YouTuber nstens1117 for the supplied music. If you like what you heard, then please do subscribe on iTunes, YouTube, or any major podcasting app, and join us on the next Kneel Before Pod.